So I'm really pleased to be joined by Emma Owen from PACT. Emma, thank you so much for joining me. Could you start just by introducing yourself and your role and what you do at PACT?
Sure, yeah, it's lovely to be here. I'm Emma Owen and I'm Head of Communications and Engagement at PACT. So my role is I head up the marketing team and our digital hub team. So we're all about helping people to find out about us and our services, hopefully supporting us because we are a charity. And our digital hub team also, this is some extra services we provide for our adoptive parents.
Brilliant. Thanks, Emma. And as you know, and as a lot of people know, that I've got this very personal link with PACT. We adopted our boys 11 years ago now. I did a recent post on a kind of when we first adopted them, or early on when they were tiny little things, and now they're big things. But yeah, it's really lovely to have you on. Could you, for people that don't know who PACT are and what they do, are you able to summarise the work of PACT in general, and maybe how long you've been there and whether there's been an evolution of your role at PACT?
Yeah, so PACT is a trauma recovery charity, and we do this through a few different ways. One being adoption, which is what you've experienced. So we find parents and we support them, train them and approve them to be adoptive parents for some of the children waiting in care. We're also an adoption support charity, so we provide comprehensive and specialist support for our families once they have their children for life. That's one of our USPs, is that we support our families for life. We're also a charity that works with women who have multiple disadvantages and might perhaps be involved in the criminal justice system, or their lifestyles put them at risk of being involved in the criminal justice system. And we do a holistic support through our women's community project, Alana House, which we run in Berkshire. And we also have a service called Bounce Back for Kids, which is supporting children who've experienced domestic abuse, and we help them to recover and give them a safe space where they can explore and express their feelings in a safe way, and to break the cycle of domestic abuse. So it's a really important service that we offer there. In answer to your other question, I've been at PACT for nearly 17 years, so a long time, but it's a remarkable organisation, and I'm so proud to be a part of what PACT does.
And amazing. I wasn't actually aware of the work you did with women in those difficult situations as well. Is that something that PACT's always done, or has it evolved over the time? You've obviously been there, like you say, 17 years. Is that extra outreach something that's been added on as time's gone on?
Yes, it's about, I think it's about 14 years or so old. We set up Alana House in response to the Corston report, which was looking at women in prison and how quite frequently that's not the right place for a woman to be if they've become involved in the criminal justice system. It's often as a result of childhood trauma that they've experienced themselves. So the Corston report gave lots of recommendations for perhaps a different way of looking at female offenders. And Alana House was a women's community project set up to support those women and help them make positive life changes and help them develop skills and awareness and just really change their lives around. And in those years that Alana House has been around, you know, we've helped hundreds of women. Well, we've empowered hundreds of women to help themselves to change their lives. It's a really inspirational place.
Brilliant. So it's a brilliant charity, and like I say, my own personal experience with PACT, I can't even really remember how or why, but we're based in Berkshire. I think PACT's got various different locations around the country, but I think they have got quite a strong base around where we are. And it's not only the support route and the actual finding the children for the forever family, and that whole bit, which is really which is really complicated, isn't it, and complex, but it's also the training that we've had through PACT. So we had a series of training where we went through the process. We've had post-adoption training. There's people we met on that training that we're still in touch with. It's an ongoing process, just like parenting is that ongoing process of support, right? I think with adoption, it feels like you always need to be learning and thinking and being curious about the behaviours that are coming through, and always thinking back to that first point. But thank you for sharing that. Can we move on to the marathon, because you yourself have got history with the marathon, haven't you? And I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but obviously I'm running it for the second time for PACT, and I'm really pushing the fundraising. Thank you so much to anyone that's listening or watching that's supported already. And it's been lovely, actually. The closer you get, I think you always worry as a runner or a fundraiser that you're not going to hit that target, whether it's $2,000, 2.5, 3, whatever. PACT also have been, I've got to shout out Julie. She's been so lovely and not piled loads of pressure on me to make sure I have to, fundraise a certain amount, but also being really supportive in that way. What's your personal experience of the marathon? What are your plans for it moving forward? Have you done lots of work with PACT and the marathon before?
Well, on a personal level, I have run the London Marathon once. It was many years ago, in the year 2000. And it was a huge challenge, and I always said never again. And I still stand by that. In the last 3 years, I've actually volunteered at the finish line. And that for me is a fantastic way of getting the full atmosphere and the full amazing experience of the London Marathon, but not actually having to run it. So that's my preference at the moment, and it's great to see everybody coming across the finish line. And my role is obviously supporting them, making sure that they can get their medals and everything. But in terms of PACT, we've for as long as I've been there, we've had some places in the London Marathon, which we're very fortunate to do, because we're not a huge charity, but we have a handful of places every year. And obviously people like you offer to take that place and raise some money for PACT's work. And then, we get to share your journey, your training journey and your fundraising journey, and then support you on the day. And obviously I'm in the unique position that I'm hoping to spot you as you cross the finish line, and all the other 6 people that are also running for PACT this year. And I'm going to be looking out for those PACT vests at the finish line, so that I can be the first person
that's what you're looking out for, right, Emma? That's going to be
what
me.
I'm looking for.
So that was.
Will you be in the sunglasses?
Well, I look ridiculous, don't I?
No.
My wife is totally fed up with me talking about trainers and gels and sunglasses, and basically what I'm doing is looking for any tiny mini advantage I might be able to get. I even I've got one here. I don't know whether you've heard of these, Emma. These are like nose strips that clip onto your nose. Have you seen these?
Not for running.
No. So what you do is I broke my nose a long time ago playing sport, and I can only really breathe out of one nostril. And I think a lot of people have a deviated septum or something where they only really get oxygen through one nostril. So you put these little magnetic things on your nose, you put this over, and it opens your nose up. So it's really weird. So I've been running with it, and it might be psychological, although I have got a friend who's a physiologist who said the research shows they really help. So I've been running with that, but I actually ran properly in the vest this week. That's the first time I ran in it. And I think sometimes I've got friends that have run for charities. The vest is not always silky smooth and, nice on body parts, but I have to say, no problems at all. Really, really comfortable. But yeah, I'll look out for you. You look out for me. I imagine I saw something on social media the other day, and it was clips of people finishing the marathon and hugging their loved ones, and it had the music over the top, and it was amazing. It was really emotional, because obviously it's such an emotional thing. And they said it's like, if you want to really see love in full flow, that's a good place to go to the finish line of a marathon. But also an airport's a good place to go and see people that are hugging each other. But I imagine it's going to be really special, but also quite busy, because you're going to have people, we're going to have broken bodies, aren't you? You're literally going to have broken bodies and people falling over the line and all sorts going on.
Yes, yeah. I have to say, in the last couple of years that I've done it, I have seen quite a few sites. Yeah, some people, I mean, it's a huge challenge, isn't it? And some people cross that line and they really have given it their absolute all. And yeah, there's, there's a few people that have to go and, yeah, should we say, just be to the side of the road for a few minutes.
Yeah.
But the
Is that part?
majority.
Do you have a specific role, Emma? Is your role to give out the medals, or are you there just to kind of help people in general?
I'm before the medals, so there's a section where you cross the line, and then there's a section before you get to the where you get your medal. And my job is to keep people moving, because people who've just run 26.2 miles, their first instinct is to stop and sit, or just at least stop. And when you've got 60,000 people crossing that line, you need them to move on. So, and also the best thing for somebody who has literally just run to 26.2 miles is to not stop dead, but to just obviously walk. You know, you don't have to keep running, but to keep moving. So that's what my role will be to make sure people keep moving towards the medal section. Just, yeah, because the last thing you want to do is sit down, because you might not get up again very easily.
No, that's a good point. Well, look, I can't wait to finish. I can look forward to seeing you and meeting you properly face to face. I just thought it might. So I showed you. That's obviously my new vest, but that was me in 2014. I still have that vest actually. So yeah, I ran that very soon after we'd adopted the boys. Again, I think, keep me busy, get me out of the house. I remember actually doing a lot of my training with the boys in a double buggy. I should try and recreate that, because that would be a funny thing to see them now. Riley, my 13-year-old's actually taller than me, and at the moment nearly as heavy as me. He's about 74 kilos. So that's great. Can we talk about, you mentioned something to me off air about Catch and the online platform that's been created by PACT. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, yes. So CATCH stands for Children and Trauma Community Hub. And it was originally set up nearly 7 years ago as the Adopter Hub. And it was created as an online support platform for adoptive parents. And we set it up with some funding from the Department for Education. And it's basically over that time evolved into becoming not just a place for adoptive parents to go for support, but also for people working with children who've been adopted, so schools or social care professionals. And there's also material on there suitable for foster carers and special guardians. And there are hundreds and hundreds of webinars and videos and interviews and various resources that just give advice and, an expert opinion on certain issues. So we might have things on there for becoming an adoptive parent in the early days. There's things about behaviour, sleeping, bedwetting, school transitions, things on how trauma has affected a child. So it might be the in utero experience, how that can impact on a child's development later on, FASD, lots of things about neurodiversity. So anybody who is parenting or caring or supporting a child who has either been adopted or fostered, or a child who's had a trauma of any sort, this is a really valuable platform that you can access to just get some advice. There's also, for adopters, there's a web chat and also a forum, so you can support your peers and get advice from other people who've been there too. It's a platform that is free for PACT adoptive parents, and it's available as a subscription for adopters or foster carers or special guardians who haven't adopted through PACT, and also to schools, education professionals, teachers. There's a new e-learning course on there about becoming a trauma-aware school, and it's a 5-module e-learning course that that schools who want to explore this area further, it's really invaluable information on there for them.
Sounds amazing. And it's catchconnect.org is the correct place to find that. So it sounds like whether you're already an adoptive parent, thinking about being an adoptive parent, working in schools, and it doesn't, I mean, of course it's designed to be the trauma of adoption or fostering, but also that trauma-informed approach in teaching and education away from adoption is massive as well, isn't it? And that's, I think, a lot of the work that we're doing with youHQ, and I know it's something we'd love to discuss with you moving forward, is how do we really upskill and empower people? I'm doing that already. As the boys have been with us for over a decade, and I mentioned to you, we're still upskilling ourselves. We're still learning about how the best way to deal with the inevitable obstacles that come up, and they will come up at school because there is that fight for life response, isn't there? There's always going to be that element of I'm scared and I'm at school and school's hard, and people need to be aware, I think, of that, whether you're a teacher, a parent, or the adopted person yourself. Sounds like a brilliant resource. So thank you so much for sharing that. Let me just take that bit off, and I'm going to now just be a little bit naughty, because if you are thinking about adoption or fostering, or you've been impacted at all from the conversation I've had with Emma, or you would just like to, if you would just like to donate some money, I've got my fundraising link below. And when we recorded this, Emma, I was probably about 80% of the target, which was £2,500, but I'd really love to smash it. So it's quite a difficult one to remember that, and it's long, but you can see it rolling down the bottom, 2024 TCS London Marathon .enthuse.com, and it's /pf/Jez Belas. But that is on social media as well. It's on the youHQ social media. And again, thank you so much to anyone that's already donated. Where can we find out more about PACT away from the catch side of things, Emma?
Well, our website, pactcharity.org, and we're also on all the social medias as PACT Charity. We'd love for people to follow us on there and find out what we're up to, and obviously support you and all our London Marathon runners.
Good luck to all the PACT London Marathon runners, but also good luck to everyone that's running the London Marathon, anyone that's volunteering to be part of the London Marathon. It's a brilliant day. It's one of the best things I've ever done. I, like you, Emma, said I'd never do it again, and here I am 11 years later doing it again. I'm sure I'll say after this one I'll never do it again. I've really enjoyed the goal and the training and the process. It's so hard. One of the big things at youHQ we promote is not only awareness of any students at schools and colleges that might be struggling, but also goal setting and values-based goal setting. And I really like how running the marathon for PACT is such an important values-based goal for me, because obviously I'm an adopted parent. I'm trying to give back to PACT, who gave to me so kindly. But that process of running a marathon, and something we're going to talk to Kevin about in a bit, it's rare that you can just turn up and run it. You really have got to put so much of it's the training, and you've done it before in 2000. You probably remember you invest a lot of emotional time, physical time in this training to get yourself prepared and ready for something that's big, and I think that's the bit that I find really powerful.
I think they say running the marathon, that's your glory lap, isn't it? You've done all the hard work before you even start on the day.
Everyone that I'm speaking to now, so when we recorded this, we're about probably 3.5 weeks away, so something like 24 days. Just can't wait for the taper, can't wait for the kind of 2 weeks of no more running, or just a little bit of running. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Emma, thank you so much for your time. Lovely to speak to you, and look forward to seeing you at the finish line. Go on.
I've got one other thing, which anybody listening, if they want a values-based goal like you've got, but perhaps don't want to run a marathon or run the London Marathon, PACT has an annual activity challenge called Marathon in May, which is where the challenge is to cover the distance of a marathon over the month of May. So it's a marathon that anyone can do, and you can walk it, don't have to run, you can run it if you like, cycle it, do it on a skateboard, however you like, but it's you can sign up to do that, and you get a medal at the end, and you can get a colour chart to track your progress. Children can do a mini marathon, which is 10 miles. And this year we've introduced a new category for dogs. So dogs can do your marathon in May with you, and they even get their own medal. So it's a really accessible challenge for anyone, and really encourage people that want that, that goal of covering a marathon distance, but maybe not all in one day, in one go.
What a great idea. And you can find, just had a quick look, you can just find that on the PACT website, can't you? If you just go to the search part and you put marathon in May. Brilliant.
It's on the front page as well. It is on the front page if you want to scroll down a bit. But yeah, really
Emma,
welcome anybody who'd like to join us for that challenge.
Brilliant. Emma, thank you so much for your time. Brilliant to talk to you. And like I say, I look forward to falling over the finish line and you picking me up and keeping me moving rather than stopping dead.
I will be there, and best of luck, Jez, and thank you so much for doing this for PACT. We really appreciate your support, and we're right behind you, cheering you on.
Good afternoon and welcome to youHQ Wellbeing Wins Marathon Special. Today I'm joined with Jessicca from the amazing charity Place2Be. Hello, Jessicca.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. With the race just around the corner, we thought it'd be a really good opportunity for you to talk a bit about the charity who I am running for and representing, along with your other broader team. So we thought it'd be a really good idea just to tell us a bit about Place2Be, how it's kind of all started, your connection with the marathon, and any kind of other bits and pieces that we want to talk about. So I'll hand over to you. I was just wondering, for people who might be hearing the name for the first time, especially at the starting line, tell us a little bit about Place2Be and what you offer.
We are the leading schools-based mental health charity in the UK, and we've been operating for over 30 years now. So we started in 1994, and we've just kind of grown ever since. Yeah, it's been going for a long time. We've helped to spearhead kind of ways that schools adopt mental health and like their approach to providing support for children and young people in schools. And we're quite multifaceted and holistic in what we do. So Place2Be provides counselling, mental health support and training in UK schools. And we do that based on using evidence-based programs and utilise what we call a whole schools approach. So that means that everyone involved in that child's life receives support. So obviously the child and young person are at the centre of what we do, but teachers and school staff also play a crucial role in supporting them, as well as their parents. So we want to make sure that everyone is involved in that, in supporting that child's mental health, so that they can build the confidence, skills and knowledge to kind of go ahead and live healthier, happier, more resilient lives.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll point to your website towards the end, but it's full of resources, isn't it? There's just so much on there that can be helpful. And when I was raising money, I got a couple of charity, like notes saying, amazing, Place2Be, help my son. This is incredible. So here's good luck. It's been really good. Yeah. So my next question might be a bit of a challenge, but there's so many charities out there, but are there any specific Place2Be stories that really kind of stick with you in your mind and remind you of why this really matters?
Yeah, so I think the fact that it's so multifaceted in the people that it supports. So I hear from teachers about what the impact that it's made to the children that they're looking after, and like for their own mental health in doing so. So I think with mental health problems kind of growing as well in the last few decades, or at least the prevalence of how it's reported have. So, for example, it's now 1 in 5 children are thought to have a probable mental health condition, whereas a few years ago that was 1 in 6. A few years prior, it was 1 in 8. And some of that might be to do with the fact we break down the stigma of mental health and people are more readily available to talk about it. But it has also grown. And as such, it's meant that teachers' roles have changed a bit. They're not just there to teach. They also have to support children and young people's mental health, deal with disclosures, deal with all sorts of things. And weren't necessarily given that training to do so when they went about their traditional kind of education training. So one huge thing that Place2Be does is that we offer that training to teachers to make sure that they've got the skills to support the children and young people in their classrooms. And that's one thing that has stuck out to me a lot of the time, is when I hear from teachers, especially ones that we get quite a lot of teachers and school staff doing events such as London Marathon for us, because they want to kind of give back to what Place2Be has provided for them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is great, and they've seen the change in the children and young people they support, and also having they will access support from us, but they're obviously Place2Be service in most schools is that we have a trained mental health professional or counsellor based in that school, and it means that teachers and school staff can focus on their teaching, and that there's someone there that's a specialist in that mental health that can send children and young people to. So it's just improved kind of the lives of everyone there. And if you look
really
on our website,
the whole culture of well-being,
exactly, it opens up those kind of doors and those conversations, and just hopefully improves culture overall, and then into adulthood. But more like stories is, if you were to have a look on our website, there's lots of stories on there of children that have been helped by Place2Be. One that always really sticks out to me is a child called Amy's story, which you can find on YouTube, and it's a message that she gives to her counsellor and about how much it's transformed her life. And she's a teenager, talks about how, prior to accessing that one-to-one support, she was facing like thoughts of suicide, and just having someone to talk to and listen to her has really transformed her life. And hearing directly from those children is so impactful.
I have a confession, because I think I used that one on one of my links, and I cried pretty much all the way through it. It's so powerful.
It's a tearjerker, really powerful.
It is, and when it just feels so unfair and unjust when children are growing up like that in such dark places, and then charities like you come along and really help them get out of it. So well done, you guys. So impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, we have amazing trained counsellors that are able to offer that support and really transform children's lives. So it's amazing. And then from a fundraising perspective, I don't work, directly with the children and young people in our schools, but I do have people fundraise for us, and some of those will be like children that have been helped by Place2Be schools. So there's one little girl that every year does fundraising activities for us, and we'll do different things. Like 1 year, her and her mum would like dress up in different outfits every day throughout Children's Mental Health Week. She did like a trek. And it's things like seeing that child who has helped Place2Be want to give back herself by fundraising is really nice as well. So I can kind of see the impact that we make.
That's amazing. It must be so easy I hope, to find advocates for you guys, because it's such a rewarding charity.
Exactly. And it's lovely seeing like all the stories and people like yourself that then want to come and fundraise for us and do amazing things to fundraise for us. Makes my job very nice.
So far, I can tell you. How long has Place2Be been connected with the marathon? Is it specifically the London Marathon? And how has that sort of partnership relationship with the marathon evolved over the years you've been doing it? Because it feels like you've got quite a big presence there. Is that right?
We've had places in the London Marathon for like over 10 years now. London Marathon has obviously been going for 45. It's in its 45th year this year. So it's grown massively, and it's really grown for us as a charity. Not necessarily the places we get in the event. We have quite a small team every year, but that team is really like mighty and does amazing fundraising. And it's such a good, because it's one of the biggest marathons in the world. It's so competitive. So many people want to do it, as I'm sure you know. Like getting a ballot place is like getting a Glastonbury ticket. It's like super hard to get, but so many people want to do it. And therefore, when people come to us, they have really strong motivations to want to do it. They often fundraise loads of amazing money that then goes to support our services in schools. It's a really like special team, and it's our kind of biggest challenge event team at Place2Be.
So if we imagined Place2Be's journey is like a marathon, what mile are you at now? What are the next big milestones for Place2Be? Are there any kind of big visions that you're hoping to achieve in the next year or further beyond?
Yeah, so at the moment, we're in about 700 schools, Place2Be, reaching over 300,000 children. And we just want to keep, and we're up and down the UK. So we're in England, Scotland and Wales, and we just want to keep improving those services as much as we can to respond to new needs that children are experiencing, especially with things like the cost of living crisis. Lots of things going on globally. Like there's more and more kind of struggles that children are facing now. So we want to make sure that the counsellors that are in our schools are providing the best support possible. And one huge thing we're trying to do is, so one thing that Place2Be does is we train people to become counsellors, and we offer clear accredited pathways to get people there. So we want to build a more like diverse mental health workforce. At the moment, people go through these different stages of our pathways in order to get accredited, and often these kind of pathways can be quite costly, and therefore lots of people that might want to go down that route, there's a barrier in place for them because of finances. So by improving kind of our fundraising and things like that, we're able to offer more sponsored places and bursary options. So that's a big thing that we're focusing on the moment at Place2Be, so that we can build a more kind of diverse mental health workforce, so that when people go out to support children and young people, the children and young people they're supporting might feel better represented by the council that they're seeing. They might come from more diverse backgrounds. So that's a big focus for Place2Be at the moment.
That's amazing. It's a great idea, actually, helping children just a bit so they can relate much more and closer with the people that they're talking with. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was going to ask, what kind of impact does support from runners like me and all your other individuals actually make, to you on the ground, to the charity?
Yeah, it's massive. So with runners like yourself and the rest of our London Marathon team and all of our kind of running teams are our kind of biggest one in challenge events at the moment. Like, everyone is running, which is amazing for charities because it's such an incredible fundraising opportunity. But also, it really gets the word of what we're doing out there. I think when someone sets up a fundraising page or is asking their friends for some donations, or they're telling their family about what they're doing and telling them about the fundraising page and asking them to sponsor them a tenner, they're hearing a lot more about Place2Be and what we do. And particularly our London Marathon runners, who are like super passionate about what we do, often have really kind of heartfelt and personal connections to our cause. Often they're fundraising like in memoriam of someone, for example. That message is going to feel even stronger when they're telling people around them about what we do. So our runners like you who are going out asking for fundraising on behalf of their amazing challenge, they're also helping to get the word out more about that. And that might lead to people either hearing about us more and then accessing our resources. So a parent might hear about us, read some of our resources online that will enable them to help their child. Or it might mean that someone is so inspired by the event that you've done that they then want to go and do London Marathon next year, or London Landmarks, or Manchester Marathon. And they want to then, more and more people are hearing about us, more and more people then want to support us. And ultimately we reach more children and young people. And they're just like people that do events like this for us. They're kind of like the face of our brand, because if someone goes to watch London Marathon at the weekend, they're going to see our orange vests, they're going to see our name and hear more about us. And it just really gets what we're doing out there and reaching more children ultimately.
Amazing. So good. And so have you been, I'm not sure, have you been to one of the marathon days before? So, I was going to ask, because it's new to me, what are the best bits of marathon day? The crowds, the costumes, the snacks?
Yeah, there's everything. London. I've been to a few marathons and they're all great, but London is just like, there's not a square meter where there won't be someone there cheering you on. It's like start to finish, you're going to be having your name called out, cheered on. So if you're struggling on the day, which people will, because it's such an amazing achievement and feat to take on, it's going to be really hard, but you won't go without support for even like a second. Like, every bit of the route is covered with people. Depending where you are as well, there's like lots of different fun bits along the course. You'll have like music at different stations. It's never a boring bit. And obviously you're running through London, so you see so many incredible landmarks as well. There's never a time in London when all the roads are shut and you can get and see everything like that. So just the atmosphere is amazing. And then seeing all the different...
Jeremy, who you've met before earlier, he's our engagement director, and he said it's kind of like the best of us. It's it really feels like everyone gets together and shows their best sides, and it's the really best side of kind of the community getting together, because everyone's just so supportive of each other.
Yeah, you forget, don't you, like in the way the world can seem sometimes, like how inspiring and amazing people actually are. And that's what you kind of see on a day like London Marathon. Like, everyone's just supporting each other, and seeing all the different charities is amazing. Like, obviously I'm here for Place2Be, and like, we're so grateful for our incredible runners, but seeing all the different charities that people are supporting, and like every year, most years, often London Marathon breaks the record for being the biggest annual fundraising event. Like last year it raised, I want to say 74 million, but I feel like the figure's falling out of my head. But they raise so much money every year.
Yeah, I think that's
huge.
a really important thing to say, because so many people are affected in so many different ways, and there are so many amazing charities out there supporting everyone. So yeah, that's a really good shout out. Actually.
Yeah, it was 73 million last year. So yeah, seeing all the the things that people are super passionate about, all the different charities across people's vests, and seeing all the charities cheer points like there for their own runners is amazing. And then at the end, when you get to the end and you get like your pint or your pint of Coca-Cola or whatever it is that will replenish you at the end, you will feel like so good at the end to get your medal and your drinks.
I think it'll be a pint.
And yeah, a pint of Guinness I've heard is really good at the end of it.
With any luck, I'll finish about an hour or an hour and a half before Liverpool could potentially win the league. So that's a big bonus for me as well. That's why I'm running.
Is that on Sunday?
Potentially, if Liverpool beat Tottenham, just putting it out there, everyone. So, or even if we draw. So I need to do under 5 hours to make kickoff.
Okay, well that will spur you on. Place2Be and thinking about Liverpool will get you around the course.
I'll just final question. I'll just try and quickly wrap it up. But I ask anyone who I get to talk to, in that dark moment of a long run, which I'm sure you've already started training and done those long runs, have you got a specific mantra for when things get tough? So a friend of mine uses Finding Nemo. He just says, keep on swimming, keep on swimming, keep on swimming. And he just keeps putting one foot in the other. So do you have one tucked up your sleeve somewhere?
I feel like this is going to be just quite boring, but I feel like when I'm really struggling, I will like audibly say, like, you've got this, like you can do this. And just saying it out loud will help me keep going throughout it. I feel like having like good songs as well really helps. And counting down so you can have your next gel. And I think if you're doing it for a charity, like thinking like every step is going to like get me closer to my fundraising goal, is going to help me get to supporting them more and like make such a difference. So I think keeping that in mind as well, like your why of why you're doing it is keeps you going. Like it's hard to stop when you know that so many people, your friends and family, have got behind you as well to support this challenge that you're doing for charity. So
that's amazing. Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, if people do want to start become ambassadors and advocates and raising money on your behalf, where could we point people to?
Yeah, so if you go onto our website, which is place2be.org.uk, there's lots of information there. So loads of stuff about us that you can find out more about to see if you want to come and support us in any way. And then if you add / and put support us to the end of that URL, there's lots of information about ways you can kind of get involved, lots of events. You could apply to join London Marathon next year, for example. And then our social media is on Instagram, it's @_Place2Be, and on Meta and X, it's just Place2Be.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out to spend time with us, and we wish you luck on your race in a month's time. And I hope we get to see you at mile 17, I think, during the race.
Yes, and I'll see you before, hopefully, at Greenwich Park, Marty.
Okay, perfect.
You're on your way.
Kevin Holland, marathon extraordinaire, head teacher, Global Spirit Ed CEO. Well, all those things. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I like the first bit, the marathon bit, because that's the easiest bit. Just run downhill, right?
The marathon. Well, I mean, we can start there if you like. It's we're so grateful that you've jumped on. We know how busy you are. Thank you so much. And look, Marty and I spoke to PACT recently, who I'm running for. Marty's running for Place2Be. We just thought it'd be great to chat to you. You've run how many marathons?
So 9 officially, and you've just reminded me actually what's really exciting about the fact you're doing it for really important causes is my first one in 2000 I did for charity. I saw it on the front of a newspaper and went, I was a runner already, but I made that decision to run a marathon for a charity called the Alström syndrome. It's a really, really rare disease that people get. So I hadn't really thought about that actually. It's really interesting that jumped straight back into my mind. That made me run 26 miles.
So you ran your first official marathon was in 2000.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about because we're talking about you're a serious runner. Like, we're talking serious. Tell us a little bit more about you as a marathon runner and your journey through running at an elite level.
Yeah, so I started running when I was really young, at primary school, and as a cub scout, and realised I was okay at it. And then, fortunately, through my kind of teens, I ran for Crawley, and then at 18, I qualified to run for Britain in the World Cross Country Championships. And ever since then, it's been a real focus of me, really. And a big part of that, you've got Wellbeing Wins there. A big part of that is around my well-being. I almost, at this point now, and I'm nearly 50, I feel like I need to run. It's good for me. But generally, I was racing over kind of 10K and those sorts of distances, and managed to sneak under 30 minutes and have run quite fast over some other distances.
Sorry, whoa. Did you just hear him say that, Martin?
I think
just sneak under 30 minutes for 10K.
Downhill course. Always a downhill course.
It was fake news.
That's amazing.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, so that was fab. But the marathon, it's really interesting because it's a physical and it's a mental beast, as simple as that. And although I do have one pretty decent time, I have a lot of other times that were really hard work on the body, and I think that's really empowering when you're going to see everyone on Sunday at London, and it's special for everyone. If you're running 2 hours and 4 minutes, I don't know how they do that, but if you're running 2 hours and 4 minutes, or you're running, walking, talking, raising money in 6 hours, it's an amazing feat to do, and to kind of put your hand up and go, I'm going to do that for whatever your personal reasons are. I think it's just fabulous. And I guess I really enjoy being able to reflect on that, because probably until I was mid-30s, where I was just racing, I didn't really respect, actually, if I'm honest, or see that other part to the journey, because it was about competition. And then I had the pleasure of working at Brighton Marathon. I did that for a few years, and that was great to be involved from the other side. And seeing the effort that people were putting in was just fabulous. So I think that was a really important part to my journey. So I still like to race, and I will do another couple more and try and run fast. But actually, I genuinely, hat off to anyone, no matter what time. It's 26 miles, doesn't matter how fast you do it. So and I know you guys are going to run super fast though, so that's okay.
Well, Jez might run super fast. I want to just make sure I make everyone else feel comfortable by going slowly.
That's very generous, Marty.
And this has been a cool journey for us, Marty, isn't it? Because, I sort of roped you in and we spoke to the different charities, didn't we? And Martin was, I don't want to speak for him, was a very good runner, but we're obviously all getting slightly older. I guess, Kev, that's sort of the cool thing with distance running, though, isn't it? That like we all lose our power and our speed, and there's not a lot you can do about that. But actually, with endurance, if you're relatively lucky to stay injury free, there's still a lot of research out there to say you can keep going into your 50s, right? And it's hard on the body.
Well, if you look at the world record for Vet 60, the male world record is held by an Irish guy, and I think it's 2:28. I think it's very fast, and you probably see, because when you follow things, our algorithms through social media. I think there's a guy who's 75 somewhere from abroad who's run a sub 3 hour marathon. So yeah, it is. If you can keep yourself fit and healthy, and some consistency probably with those training routines, as well as doing the other things. I think the core strength and the diet and the nutrition, the older you get, that's more important in some ways than doing the training. But yeah, it's tough. But I ran my fastest marathon. I was 46, I think, 45 maybe. Yeah.
Kev, what is the PB?
So 2:35 is my best for a marathon.
Whoa.
Yeah. Something to aim for. This is definitely going to be my fastest marathon.
But I've also run 3 hours 59:55 in Helsinki, where it was unbelievably hot, and I completely capitulated, and I more or less properly walked like 8 or 9 miles. So you know,
Wow.
I think it's really interesting, isn't it, that we have the capability, but it's a testing event, and you see people really suffer, and I've really suffered as well. So I'm not sure. I've had two really enjoyable experiences, 2:35 and 2:55 in Brighton. So one was Boston, UK, and one was Brighton, UK, and I've had less exciting experiences than I have good ones, to be honest.
So, Kev, at the moment, you say like
I was going to say, why is it that we enjoy the suffering so much? Because clearly, you know, that race has been painful, that long one for you, and you walked a long part of it. And I've done some of my longer run trainings, and I mean, you feel amazing afterwards, but during it, it's just awful. I remember kind of wanting to just cry. I just wanted to be at home at that point. What keeps pulling you back? You just love the pain.
I think for me, if I say I'm going to, then I will. And I think once I'm out there and I'm doing it, I make it happen. And it was really weird. So that first marathon I ran in 2000. I went through the first half in 71:30, so really fast. I was just not prepared for a marathon, and then I did 3 hours and 6 minutes in the end. So I think from 18 onwards, I was walking, jogging, kicking myself, taking my shoes off, putting them back on. You know, it was really mentally tough, because I just hadn't. I'd always raced and always just run fast, and actually. You're not really racing in a marathon unless you're in London. If you're not in the first 20, you are running a marathon, and it becomes a personal battle. And I didn't understand that at all when I first stepped on the line. The unfortunate thing is I learned absolutely nothing and did it the year after and did exactly the same thing. But I've learned since then. So, you know, it's an interesting battle you have with yourself when you're out there. And yeah, I've spent plenty of miles in marathons looking at the floor, ignoring the crowd, and just trying to keep moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Karen, with that in mind, you know, you're head at school, you know, you're big on your goal setting, and we talked a lot before, you and I, about personal development. And there's so much out there, isn't there, about kids struggling through social media and everything else that's going on in the world. The London Marathon, I did it once in 2014, and you know, Marty just spoke to Place2Be and Jessicca at Place2Be about how the London Marathon is almost the best of us. Do you think this sort of going through the pain barrier and mentally being able to deal with it and physically is a really great way for young people to potentially develop resilience, or to see, you know, we setting a really great example, for example, for our own kids by doing a marathon to push through that pain barrier? Where do you see that side of it?
Depends if you can walk the next day, Jez, I suppose. But no, I think overcoming challenges is really important. And we spoke a bit before about, you know, my personal journey is around actually being a really resilient and reflective sports person, and actually probably socially less so, and academically even less so. So I had a set of skills over here that I didn't use as much here, and I hardly used at all over here. So I think actually trying to unpick that and think about how we challenge ourselves, how we become accepting of the really difficult things and the barriers that get either put in front of us or we put in front of ourselves. We have to remember a lot of people on that start line will not believe they've done enough training, will not believe they got their carbo load right, will not believe actually they're capable of the time they've told their friends. And then there'll be the people on completely the other end that are like, yeah, I can do this really easily. It's a bit like when children go into exams, when they come out, you kind of almost don't want them to say, oh, that was really easy, sir. Because you're like, oh no, was it easy, or did you miss the point? Yeah. So I think when we talk about having challenging goals, it is about having all of those steps on the way. And you guys will have been through that with your training, building it up, doing more miles, maybe changing the gels you were doing or using, and you know, all of those different things. That's the journey, isn't it? That's how we become reflective and build our resilience, because actually we build the strategies to overcome the barriers we've have faced. So that could be academically, it could be socially, it could be a sporting challenge, it could be any form of, you know, a challenge really. But yeah, I think that people perceive maybe certain things, a marathon would be one, or a triathlon maybe, you know, from a sport, there's huge things to actually undertake. But like I say, someone doing the couch to 5K and then ending doing 5K, that's an equal success.
Yeah.
But I think we society maybe doesn't see it that way, and that's why it's got to be your own goal. That's the really important piece. You can't have someone else's goal. If your goal on New Year's Eve is to lose weight, it's got to be your goal, not because someone's nudged you to do that. So I think it's really important.
Marty, there's so many goals within actually getting to the start line, isn't there? And we're running for charities, and so you've got one goal, which is to raise X amount of money, and then you've got the weekly goals, the daily goals, the nutrition goal, the sleep goals, the actual completing the marathon. Like, how are you finding that, Marty, and how have you found that process over the last few months of building up to Marathon Day, which, when we record this, it's really scary to say, is in 3 days' time. So and now it's like 3 days.
Yeah, well, I think with all the other things going on, I find they're the hardest bits. Getting out and running, finding the time to do that. I've got a really supportive family, thoroughly enjoy doing it. So actually, the fundraising, I think, has been quite stressful, because with that comes all the social media activity you have to do, and badgering all your mates again and again, and then your family. And then I've made quite a few lifestyle changes. I haven't really drunk until this month. I hadn't really drunk much alcohol since last November, but then I had a stag do and a wedding all in one. So so that hasn't helped. And then, my family don't really eat sugar. So, making some really cool life changes has been really good. But they have been the harder bits. The training I really enjoy. But as Jez knows, I get injured all the time. And I've had runner's knee pretty much since November. And so that's been really kind of plaguing me in my long runs. And I've just had to go through it. So other than, I'm okay to do the kind of long distance, but I know that probably 10 miles of that is going to be incredibly painful. So I'm slightly scared of that. So there's lots going on. You're thinking about it all the time in the run up as well. This week especially, I can't not think of anything. I've already packed and unpacked and repacked my bag like 3 times, getting it ready, and then I've ordered some other things and some sleeves, because I remembered I do get sore elbows when I run. And so all these new things are just happening, and now I'm starting to panic. Maybe I think in total I'm talking quickly and I'm panicking. Great. Okay.
You do need to stop running on your elbows. You'll definitely.
That definitely will hurt. You used a really interesting word though, Marty, around commitment, and Jez, going back to the goals and those different aspects and elements. It is to be committed over a 16-week period. Everyone always uses that. Actually, that's a huge goal in itself, to say over this huge period of time you're going to stay on track. And it's hard, isn't it, to, like you say, Marty? I think one of the things it's really interesting is actually a little bit of alcohol, maybe not a stag do, but a little bit of alcohol and some of those other things, they're not going to massively affect you. But once you decide that's your goal and you're going to commit to it, actually, I find, so I think I said to you, Jez, when we were down in Kent, I find it really hard not to have a day off, because and I know actually, as I am older, it's much better for me to have a day off. But there's something telling me that I shouldn't do that. Even if I go out and run 4 or 5 miles, let's just do that. And I think all those things are really, they demonstrate the kind of drive and resilience and willpower it takes to do these things. And that's why when you do set goals, you need to be really clear. You've got a really, really clear purpose. And I think in life, sometimes, whether it be young people in schools or people outside, do set a goal and are not as clear and purposeful as they need to be. And I think that's where having something like an event, a marathon, or whatever that might be for you, really helps you be pinpoint focused on when you're gonna achieve it.
And I think the beauty of running, whatever the distance is, we talk about goal setting. It's very quantifiable, isn't it? You can really track it, you can monitor it, you can look at nowadays with all the tech and everything else. It's amazing. And actually, I found that really interesting, just having the apps and it talking back to me and listening. Kevin, I wanted to ask you, right? Me and Marty obviously getting nervous, and we are on social media, and the algorithm is mental. Yes. So it's literally like, don't go too fast. Make sure you take gels every 25 minutes. The first 3 to 5Ks downhill. All this stuff. Is there anything with your experience that you would say you would super prioritize? So, I've spoken to loads of people doing the marathon, and some have said, don't really buy into the gels. I just have the water, not the electrolytes. Is there something that you think, look, guys, this is really the most important bit? Would you say it's the not going off too fast bit, or is there something else? You've got other insights that you might not think about?
Clearly, ultimately, the training. That is number one, right? You can't go and run a marathon if you haven't done the block, and you guys have done it. Whether you've had some niggles or injuries or a stag do, you've done the block of training. So that's number one. So I think in your head, you should have some positive psychology around, you know what, I've done the mile. So that's a tick. On the day and that lead up, I think there's the carbo load, which is not one bowl of pasta Friday night. So that's, people get that drastically wrong. If you go online, you can do all sorts of, you can find out how much. One of my good friends raced a couple of weeks ago. He's carbo loading for 2.5 days, eating something about every 45 minutes, the right amount of grams, that. So that's, I think a lot of people that do struggle, and I would have been one of those, don't get that piece right. So if you haven't started carbo loading, I give you guys permission to eat as much as you can over the next 2 and a bit days, because that's really important, and vary it so it doesn't get boring. And then I think your pace strategy is key. You're right, Jez, that first bit of the London, it's exciting. You can't wait. Your heart's racing. You get over that start line. And I think, if you run 10 or 15 seconds a mile slower in the first 8, 9, or even 10 miles, you're not going to regret it in the last 6. As simple as that. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. It's easy to get carried away, but it's also easy to feel great, start passing people. You imagine you just run that, you run 2 minutes slower than you think you actually could through the first 10 miles. And then you go, right, I can get back on the pace I thought I could run. Suddenly you're going past people all of the time. Like, there's nothing worse than it going the other way around. And suddenly people that look like, because you look at them and you think, oh my God, they're walking, but they're going past me. Hold on, what am I doing? That's not a lot of fun. I've been there. And actually, so I think if you can get that, it's as much about you, how you feel physically, but I think there is a really big psychological effect if you can keep running with even a big group of people where you're all moving forward all of the time. I think that's a really powerful thing. So, but ultimately, you've got to enjoy it. I think if you can take it in and take the crowds in and really enjoy it, that's a big bit. And by the way, Jez, I think I'm going to come down, so I need to firstly have your numbers, and I'll be expecting a high five.
It's almost like we planned this, but there's my number.
Look at that.
And there's mine.
I'm going to write it down, look.
But also, Kev, if you are going to go down the tech route, if you download the official TCS Marathon app, you can put surname in. And if Marty makes sure his GPS is on, and so do I, you should be able to track us. But no, Kev, that point, and Marty, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well. I'm really pleased you said that, because in 2014, I did exactly the wrong thing. I felt great. I'd done the training, and I thought, I feel amazing. I know I can do quicker than what I've said. And I definitely came a cropper coming out of Canary Wharf. I was a broken man, and I did not enjoy that last 10K. And look, I think it's inevitable. It's going to hurt. And that's the bit that's quite hard to get your head around, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah.
Like, no matter whether you pace it right or you pace it wrong, it's going to hurt anyway. But yeah, you're right. If you pace it wrong initially for that first, and they say that the first half's 30K, don't they, Kev? Not 13 miles.
Yeah. You're not halfway, definitely 20 miles, I'd say. That's halfway.
But you're right. I totally buy into that. Every person you overtake in that last probably 10K is only going to fuel you rather than the other way around. And I remember exactly the same in 2014. I've been overtaken. I think you can even see your stats, can't you? I think you can even go on the app and you can see how many people you overtake and how many people overtake you. And that's an interesting metric. Yeah,
that Canary Wharf piece is interesting, because when I ran it in 2000 and 2001, Canary Wharf was not like it is now. So it was like tumbleweed. There was nothing. There was the big buildings, but no one lived there. They just worked there in the week. So for about 4 miles, all I can have it's vivid. It's like it was freezing cold. There was no one there. It was the worst experience of my life. That's not a surprise that it aligned with where it all went pear-shaped. But actually now, when I've done it, there's people everywhere. So at least you've got that support from start to finish. And I mean, it is the most amazing support.
Yeah. My pacing strategy, I don't mind going slow. I'm not attempting a special time I'm certainly not racing it. I just kind of think I'll be roughly about 4.5
Awesome.
hours. So I'm going to be plodding along, hopefully. I'm just, I'm going to take a cocktail of painkillers and Imodium and stuff like that beforehand, but I've never done.
I thought you were going to say gin, to be honest.
Yeah. No, that might help the pain, but yeah. So I haven't really done a really long run with that cocktail inside me before, but yeah, who knows how it'll end up? Or I'll probably make the front news for doing something embarrassing.
Kev, do you know much about like painkiller? That's come up a couple of times recently, and I've had people say, Martin's got a bit of a knee injury, and people are carrying stuff. I was asked this morning, is it okay, paracetamol, ibuprofen? Have you heard much about that? Like, racing?
Yeah. So over that kind of distance as well, and your body's going to be like working really, really hard. So things like that will go through your system in a different kind of way. But ultimately, if you're going to take 2 paracetamols like you usually do, we all know paracetamol fundamentally is a blood thinner, which is why we get rid of headaches and things like that. It's not gonna massively affect you. I used to, if I was racing when I was younger and I had a cold or I was ill, I would take a paracetamol. Ideally, clearly, you don't want it in because it does alter the chemistry in your body. But I think taking painkillers is something that, I think what it is, there'll be 35,000 people on the start line. Let's say 10,000 of them have taken some kind of painkiller, whether it be for an injury, a headache, a cold. So I think it's quite common. Obviously, watch out for the drugs test. Marty, if you're going to take that cocktail and you're going to finish in the first 5, you're going to get drugs tested. So I might, you want to be careful about that.
And there's also the classic, Kev, isn't there, that if you haven't run with that in your system before, you've got to be a bit careful, because if you haven't tried and tested it, you just don't quite know how you're going to react to it.
No, exactly. And I think that's the key point, isn't it? That if you were to feel ill or something like that, it could well be that you've got something different in your system, and your increased heart rate and change of blood flow and everything else. You can imagine just that, like dizziness and those kinds of things. Hopefully nothing more than that, but I think just be wary, Marty. In many ways, probably approaching it without any of that, and then thinking, well, then, because the other thing to taking those things because you have an injury is you have to accept you're probably going to make the injury worse, because you're going to mask the pain you would feel before it, and then it's going to increase because of the pressure you're putting yourself under. So I guess my ultimate advice would be, don't take anything, because actually you should. If it's starting to really hurt, you kind of want to know that it's really hurting, because you don't want to affect yourself moving forward and never be able to consider doing a marathon again. So I think that's something worth considering. And obviously, and if you're really concerned, then go to the various websites, or go even consult your GP for a quick conversation, just to make sure that you're safe and sound.
Okay, good advice. Thank you.
Kev, thank you so much for giving up your time. I think we could carry on talking, but we'll have to cut it there. We know you're a very busy man. Look, Marty, you're still fundraising, and so am I. I was really lucky and grateful to hit my target yesterday. So I've got Marty's Place2Be Just Giving page scrolling underneath. Marty, is there anything else you wanted to add or ask Kevin before he jumps off?
I've been reading loads of these kind of ultramarathon books anyway, so I've got much better at coping with pain. But have you ever, just a quick question, have you ever had like a real bad niggle or pain that you just crack on? Do you just go through it, or does that stop you from racing?
Yeah, no. So I mean, I've had a range of different injuries. I ran a half marathon where I more or less ran with one leg because I pulled my hamstring about 6 miles in, and I still finished it and still ran relatively fast. And I kind of swung my leg around. Again, I'm not advising that. It was more stupidity, and I don't like losing, so I just did it.
Yeah.
But I think I think if you have got niggles and things, what can be hard to do is know when actually it's too much, because you want to finish, right? You're going to have raised all this money, but there's no one who's giving you that money that wants to see you get hurt or really hurt yourself off the back of this. They would still happily give you the money for all of the effort you've put in. But so I think it's about being really conscious about that, because I can imagine, again, there's a big chunk of people raising money. I can imagine a big chunk of those people getting round with injuries. You sometimes see them starting all strapped up and wrapped up, and actually, you know, maybe that's not the best advice I could give. I think it's about listen to your body, and if you get 13, 14, 15 miles in and you really are in agony, then you need to make the right call. The good thing is, obviously, out on the course there is first aid and people that really know their stuff. So it could even be you pull aside for 5 minutes, get some really proper good medical advice, and they say, you know what, you could walk fast for the rest of it, and it's not going to cause you any more issues, and you go, right, cool, I can commit to that. So it might be you set your goals back, or you might find you've got no issues at all. So it's just finding that right balance.
Lovely stuff. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you so much. So for anyone listening, just tell us where we can see a bit more about you, what you're doing at the moment. Where can we find out a bit more about you?
Yeah, so Global Spirit Ed is the company that I run, and the work we do there is very much around goal setting and student agency and people having a real ownership of their learning. But I'm just moved into a fabulous school called the Wherry School in Norfolk. For those that are interested in special needs and particularly autism, it's an ASD specialist school. It's really exciting. What's exciting is I'm learning, but equally I'm adding some value, and it's a fabulous place to be. So yeah, if you want to find out more about the work that I do, I guess internationally, and a bit more around agency for people, then Global Spirit Ed is a place to be. And if it's around the work I currently do now in an ASD school, then the Wherry School in Norwich. So yeah, really, really exciting. And I would say they could see me on the start line in London, but maybe next year. I'll let you two have the glory this year.
Well, you heard it here first. He's committed. When he's committed, you heard it on earlier. He said he has to do it. So yeah. And if Kevin, let us know where you're going to be. So Marty's,
I will.
You can see Marty's in the orange and yellow.
Yes,
I'll be in a white PACT vest, which I'm hoping won't be covered in any chafe or blood or anything like that. It will stay white, hopefully, but we'll be looking out for you. And thank you so much for giving up your time.
No, I'll give you a really big shout. I'll be make sure that I keep my eye out. If I've got that tracker, I should be able to follow you quite well. So that'd be brilliant.
Cheers, Kevin.